Crew, welcome to the pool, and apologies for all of this. It's been a crazy week. I couldn't even really record at home. I am at work right now on a Saturday in the morning, not feeling my best, no shower, no shave, gotta get this out. So for those who are new, I like to talk way too much about this kind of stuff. Got a little bit about the actual playing, the football part, then our pool. Here we go. For those who are new, or even just those who don't pay attention, you'll often see in pools that are run like this or March Madness, anything that's more like kind of brackety based, Wadi and Hatari always are a mention. Now, for those who don't know, those are my dogs, but they are also my gut picks. I try and just not think of it. And I think we are all guilty just of kind of reading a bunch, consuming a lot, listening to a bit, thinking way too much about what might happen, and then we talk ourselves out of things. So I always try and see what is my gut instinct versus my over-analytical. Now, to be honest, it's about 50-50, but a reason I like a pool like this is it makes you feel both smart and stupid at the same time. Smart because if you can kind of game it and you get yourself where in the last week you're still in contention, you feel like you figured out the code, but stupid because sometimes it's so obvious it just smacks you in the face. Now, Wildcard weekend was exciting. There was a lot of games. Actually, pretty much all of the games gave us something. So even the games that weren't played necessarily that well still had good narratives, good moments, and great plays. The downside, honestly, and I watched most of these, for me, I just forget after not being in North America for so long, the drug commercials that come up. And I don't want to really focus too much on one, but bleeding from the perineum, if you don't want to, maybe don't look that up. But if that's a side effect, what do you have that is a better consequence? And if you don't know what that is, it ain't good. Just put it that way. But onto the actual football part, no matter who you were rooting for, we all kind of had our basics. I'll get to the most common picks when I go through some of the stats that I put together. But realistically, our pool kind of came down to a few key games. Jacksonville and Buffalo, San Francisco and Philly. Now, in both of them, there were kind of these stories. You got Philly, who on paper is probably still the best team, or at least one of them, but seem to hate each other and forget that, offenses can score points, or maybe their quarterback's worse than we thought, not sure. Then you got San Francisco, who, again, if everyone's healthy, probably are the most talented team, best team on paper, whatever you want to put them. But again, if healthy, and they're not, and when the report comes out about these electromagnetic fields that might be causing, if you haven't read it, read it, it's a trip. But they can't stay healthy at all. And even Kittle getting knocked out in the game doesn't give you a whole lot of faith. But again, you can overthink that one. And I think a lot of us maybe did. On the other side, it's even more glaring. You got Buffalo and you got Jacksonville. Now, if you just were in a coma for the past 15 weeks and you heard Buffalo's in the playoffs with a healthy Josh Allen, Lamar and Mahomes is not, you wouldn't think about it. Allen all the way. It's kind of his to lose then. But when you have Jacksonville for the last couple weeks, and if you're playing fantasy sports, a lot of you maybe won or were successful in your leagues because of Trevor Lawrence or Etienne. So we kind of have this affinity, and I think we overthought ourselves. Realistically, what did it come down to? Take Josh Allen, take Christian McCaffrey, don't think. Will next week? I guess we'll have to see, but at least the teams that did that, you're pretty happy going into the second weekend. Anyone who went the other way, you're going to have some scrambling to do. On the other games, you can't deny right now probably the story of the whole playoffs and maybe even the last little bit. Chicago, you got to think about it. First ever Pope comes from Chicago, and now this is happening. I'm not that religious, but I might be a believer in if this keeps going. Caleb Williams also, I'm not ragging on you Bear fans. I'm a Browns fan. Feel free to throw it right back at me. Williams is already the most successful, Cleveland, Chicago quarterback, most passing yards in the season, taking them about as far as they've gone in a while. Is he already their best franchise quarterback? He's in the conversation already after just only a couple seasons. That's kind of sad. But it doesn't really matter. It seems like he's the kind of player that at halftime gets that boost. It's like a video game. He had a horrible first half, missed some open receivers, didn't really look like he made great decisions. The whole hanging onto the ball too much is kind of get into him. Then all of a sudden, he just can throw off his back foot on fourth down and is amazing. If you were watching it, now we know setting up into week 2, 20 points is nothing. So that game is obviously going to be premier to watch. But you kind of can argue maybe they all are. The only thing that I think is really interesting moving forward is how little faith a lot of us in the pool had in the number 1 seeds. And that's kind of knew. The last couple years, we kind of felt we knew where it was going. This year, we don't. People who went in Denver and Seattle, you're going to get a chance to shine because a few of you went a little bit heavy, and in the pool, you noticed you didn't have the greatest first week, but now it's your chance. I could go on talking forever, but I do want to get to the pool because week 2 is coming, and we got to get this done before it gets here. For those who've been in this pool, you know it is not just the points you get in week 1, but how many people you held on to. Now, we do have a few perfect squads. We have a couple that have managed to maintain their entire roster. Corbin as his second team, obviously, and his first, he's having a great week. Both teams north of 150, but Corbin 2 has all 12, so that's not too bad. Jake can say the same thing in the top 10. Mike, R, Nick, the brothers, both have 10, rounding out our top 5. We can keep going down. Tom, he's still in here too. Speaking of which, we got Kak, and we got all the way down here, Jim too. So you guys do have an advantage, although 11, you're still in the hunt. I'd say now down to a few of us having 7, and by a few of us, I mean me and maybe just 1 or 2 others. Sorry, dudes. We're going to have to make some moves more aggressively. But like I said, it really is going to come down to how invested we are in our number 1 seeds and who you got, right? So it's always good to look here, but when we're around, I mean, we got a tie for third. Top 3 are going to get payouts, by the way. So in this case, we see our payouts, Ben, Corbin, Chainer. Too close to call at this point. Let's not obsess. What I'd rather look at is taking a look at some of our pool stats. Now, I always like doing this even with players that didn't have it. So who knew? Love was actually the best player to pick in week 1, but obviously that would be it. 37, he still might end up being a top 5 or top 6 quarterback when it's all said and done, but we see the kind of layout here. Lowest person that was taken on a somewhat common level, I'd say, was Hurts. No one had Young. Purdy only one. I think just one. May was fairly common, and probably the Hurts and May, the bigger letdowns, whereas Allen and Stafford, as we're going to find in a minute, not only each kind of very common, but actually the most common combo. For running backs, CMC, he was the most common and the highest scoring. But after that, Marks, I think only 1, maybe 2. Hubbard, nobody. Etienne was fairly commonly placed for the people who bet on Jacksonville. Cook was probably the biggest disappointment, but at least he survived and lived to play another day with Travion Henderson, although Henderson-Stevenson combo, that just burnt fantasy owners all year, so why not continue to burn you? Wide receivers, I always think is hilarious because it almost always blows up. Now, Patrick Nacua, obviously, he's one. We're going to have JSN coming in week 2 as the second most common, and maybe he would have been up there if Seattle wouldn't have been the number 1 and got the bye. But he pays off, and then after that, I mean, I think some people have Dobbs, a couple people Washington, Dallas Goedert, a bit, but again, he's out. Like, it really is kind of a wasteland. Now, some of these players down near the bottom are people that are going to keep going. Some not so much. Now, getting to like kind of the injuries, you saw Nico Collins' name. It looks like he might be out with concussion protocol. Diggs got rocked, but they didn't get in the protocol. I'm a little bit worried about that. There's the protocol, and then there's the playoff protocol. But just taking a look just to see the numbers I threw together, most common. So like I said, Stafford and Allen were the most common quarterbacks, not surprisingly. May just outside of that. Most common quarterback that got knocked out, we're looking at Lawrence here. Running backs, little bit surprising that CMC, sorry, I said he was the number 1. I forgot he actually, a lot of people did think Philly on that end. You see Saquon Barkley being quite high as well. So that was kind of a divisive game. It is surprising that Cook was so high when there were so many people that were bigger on Jacksonville, just not quite as much, right? We do see Etienne as popular, but not the most popular. I mentioned before, Baka Nacua, number 1. Diggs, number 3 was a bit of a surprise, and with that concussion, we'll see how it rolls. JSN, no surprise. I do think they would have been neck and neck if Seattle didn't get the bye. So with all that said, now we know our numbers. It is a bit overwhelming, and we'll talk later on. I've just found out that, Gemini might be able to make me an app for keeping score, which I would think is amazing. I'm not sure if it can actually work in future years. I'll still do stuff like this, but I know with all the pools, it's hard to go through. If you are curious and you want to know, I would say, like, for me, I'd want to look at the people just above, just below, and try and compare my roster. That's the best thing I can suggest, unless you got time to go through every single person's roster, in which case, hey, awesome for you. Well, I'll try and be a little bit more proactive. And now that I know maybe coming to school is a better way to actually record these things, if I can't do it at home, I'll figure it out hopefully by the first part of the week. Do remember, if you're watching this and you do want to make your 13th sub, you got to let me know before kickoff and I'll make it happen. I will not put them up until kickoff happens because I don't want you to see who's doing what. And yes, I already make my decisions right away. I can check them. If you ever want to know, I will say whether yes or no, because I think it's fair that I don't have that kind of an advantage. But if you're looking at my teams, it ain't helping if it is. So, anywho, best of luck, second week.